we are releasing two new brown leathers. We have Harry and we have Spencer, and we wanted to show a little tutorial about some ways that they're similar and some ways that they're different. They're both brown leathers, but they have a lot of really unique characteristics that we'll show. So Harry is a leather that has kind of a crackled appearance. You can see that there are some striations of lighter tan and brown, and especially on the cover here, there's a lot of a kind of crackled effect. So it has a really warm vintage look to the leather. It's a medium hand leather, not super floppy, not super thick, and pretty flexible. It also has a light shiny surface, not very reflective, but you can definitely tell that there's a little extra shine to the leather. You'll also get a little pull-up color change if you stretch or pull the leather. But if you scratch it or if you find that the color changes, you can rub it out pretty easily. Next we have Spencer, and this leather is more of a matte finish, so there's not a lot of shine, just a really smooth velvety appearance. This is also a medium hand leather, not too thick, not too thin. It kind of has a matte, sort of suede-y appearance, and not much color change or pull-up to the leather. It does scratch easily, however. So any little markings or scratches will show up and change the color, but you can use the oil from your hands to massage out any marks. First, we're going to introduce Harry, and this is a really nice leather with a antiqued, crackled look. We're offering Harry in the number 7 style, folios, and the weekly calendar cover. You can see that on the number 7s, having that double layer of leather really gives a nice, sturdy feel to the front and back cover. You have your removable pen loop on here, and you can see some of the nice variation, some of the crackling and kind of tan striations on the brown leather. This is the folio. Really simple front and back slip covers. And this is an example of a smoother piece of leather. And this is the A5 number 7. This piece has a lot of really cool vintage charm to it. Lots of different striations and different textures on this piece of leather. And the inside, on the suede side of the leather, doesn't have too much fuzz, so it's definitely a nice smooth surface. And the removable pen loop on this style as well. Next we have Spencer. This is a more matte leather. It also scratches pretty easily, so that's something to look out for on this leather. But it does patina really beautifully, and you can easily condition out any scratches that appear on the leather. It definitely has more of a consistent, smooth finish. We're offering Spencer in the number 7 style, folios, and the weekly calendar cover. This is the weekly. So front and back slip pockets, and this will fit your Hobonichi Weeks planner. This one's an example of the folio. You can see on this one there's a bit of patina that's developed just from handling the leather and making the book. So if your book comes with some extra little marks or scratches, that's totally normal and part of the charm of this specific leather. Front and back pockets, matching stitching. That's Spencer. So we wanted to go over some leather comparisons for Harry and Spencer. We offer a lot of brown leathers at Chic Sparrow, so we like to give you guys an idea of what to expect as far as how they're different and what to expect when you order your notebook. So again, between the two leathers, Harry has more of a light shiny finish and also more of a antiqued sort of vintage look to the leather. There's a little bit of crackling and some tan and brown striations in the leather. Spencer is a matte leather, more consistent in terms of the color, and it also scratches really easily, so you'll see a lot more natural patina develop on this leather compared to Harry, which should stay pretty similar to the way it comes over time and with use. First off, I wanted to compare this to the Callahan leather. If you heard about this leather before, we offered it earlier, but it had a certain scent to it. So these are actually very similar in terms of color. Specifically with the Spencer, both of these are matte leathers. However, the Spencer is scent-free, so if that's something that held you back from purchasing Callahan, Spencer might be a good fit for you. And comparing these to our two newest browns, Pacific and Atlantic from the Express collection, they're pretty similar to Harry in that they both will have some striations and some antiqued charm to the leather, so you can kind of expect a similar textured look if you got either of these two leathers. Next, comparing Harry and Spencer to the artist leathers. The artist leathers were definitely thinner, a little bit more floppy compared to Harry and Spencer, which have more of a medium hand. So that's something to look out for. This is definitely a firmer leather than several of the browns that we recently released. These are two of our waypoint colors, Quiet Tan and Rustic Brown. They're a little bit more flexible compared to Harry and Spencer. And they also have a lot more texture on the surface. So where the two new leathers will have more variation in terms of like color and texture underneath the surface, Quiet Tan and Rustic Brown have more texture above the surface. So that's something to look out for. And next we have our Maverick leathers. So Harry is similar to these in that they both have that kind of crackled surface. So there's the main color on the top, and then there's the lighter color that's exposed in the crackles. So these are definitely thicker than the Dirty Hairy leathers, but they do kind of have that same crackled starburst appeal. And going back to the Evanwood collection, these leathers were a lot smoother and more consistent in color, but just for a color comparison, you can see that the hairy is more of a medium brown compared to these more of like burgundy tones here and kind of tan tones here. Next we have our creme leathers. Definitely thicker, a firm hand on both of these. And they're also different in terms of color. So creme brulee leans towards tan, chocolate leans towards dark brown, and Harry and Spencer are both kind of medium brown tones. Next we have Darcy. This is definitely a stiffer leather compared to Harry and Spencer. Also more of kind of a red, warm tone here, whereas the Harry and Spencer have almost a gray effect to this medium brown. Also a little bit less shine than on the Austin leathers. And comparing Pemberley, oak and honey both have a lot of texture on the surface, a lot of that pebbly, nubbly sort of texture. There's small grids and then there's kind of a large grid here. Both Harry and Spencer are going to be a lot smoother than that. There's not much pebbling on these leathers, although you might see a little bit more variation in the leather on Harry. And going back to March Hare and Dormouse, definitely lighter in color. And you can also see that they scratch pretty easily. But overall, they rub out pretty nicely, and you can expect your leather to develop a nice patina. Both of these colors are a little bit lighter than the Harry and Spencer, which are more of a medium brown. Hopefully that helped compare some of our older brown leathers with our new brown leathers. We will be releasing Harry and Spencer Traveler's Notebooks in the number 7, folio, and weekly calendar sizes. They'll be on chicsparrow.com starting on Monday, June 14th.